Welcome, everyone in the United States, Canada, and around the world to another episode of It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast of overcomers and useful information to better our daily life and mental well-being. I'm your host, Ron Rapaport. I would like to thank all our listeners, viewers on our YouTube channel, It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut, and our sponsors and supporters for making the podcast such a success. The podcast may also be accessed on our website, itsawrapwithrap.com, where you can find all the episodes, previews of future episodes, and unique products and services offered from our sponsors, as well as the new podcast Book Nook, showcasing many of the books our guests have authored that can be purchased on Amazon. And my guest today is Jennifer Cramer Miller. Jennifer is an outstanding writer, speaker, mentor, joy advocate, blogger, custom home consultant, and author of her 2024 award-winning book, Incurable Optimist, Living with Illness and Chronic Hope. Jennifer has undergone kidney dialysis 3 times and has had 4 kidney transplants. Jennifer is here with us today to share her profound journey as a patient who has navigated the stormy waters of dialysis, multiple kidney transplants, and the relentless pursuit of hope and joy amidst the backdrop of chronic illness. Our conversation with Jennifer will educate us on kidney disease, explore the emotional landscape of kidney disease, show us the power of acceptance and the miracles that unfold when people show up for one another with acts of profound kindness. From Minneapolis, Minnesota, United States, please welcome Jennifer to the podcast.
Hello, Ron. I am so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
Well, I just want to say it's great that we can have you here. And I read your book as we talked a little bit off camera, and it's an awesome book. I recommend it to everybody. It's really very well written, and I can see why you won awards. Now,
Thank
can
you.
you please introduce yourself to us and tell us what life was like for you prior to your 22nd birthday?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I am Jennifer Cramer Miller, as you said, and a writer and an advocate for patients and for anybody trying to manage uncertainty and find joy. I think we all have to do that as just humans. But I grew up, I'm in Minneapolis now, a suburb of Minneapolis by Lake Minnetonka, but I actually grew up in a suburb of Minneapolis with, the idyllic name of Golden Valley. And my childhood years and growing up years were pretty idyllic, kind of as the name suggests. My dad was a custom home builder. We lived in a nice house with parks nearby and a neighborhood school. And I have a brother who is just a year and 3 months older. My mom and dad were just a very attentive, loving mother and father. I did all the things that you would want to do growing up. I went to summer camps and I was a bluebird and I played on softball teams and tennis teams and it was really a lovely, lovely growing up experience. And then I went to college on the West Coast to a private liberal arts school close to Seattle. And that was again happy, healthy, normal set of 4 years. I got a business degree and a psychology minor. And I experienced the West Coast. It was kind of fun for a Midwestern girl to be on the West Coast and have a whole new area to call my own. And then after I graduated, I moved into an apartment with my best friend, Lisa, and I got a really great PR position. I was very excited. My life was launching. And shortly after graduation, so graduated in June, in November, I suddenly woke up with puffy eyes and I felt kind of tired and fatigued. And so I went to a doctor, like you would expect. But I didn't expect what actually happened at that visit because, I was so young and I had no knowledge about anything other than having a strep throat or a cold or a flu.
Right.
So I expected something medically familiar, but instead I was told after doing a urine test that I had protein in my urine, and protein has no business being in your urine. A healthy kidney does not filter protein out into your urine. So the best way to think about it is almost like holes in a screen. Like they should be keeping the mosquitoes out. But so that showed a sign of kidney damage. And when I learned I had kidney damage, I was, you know, I had no idea what that was going to mean. I just
Right.
thought, oh, well, then fix it. And they said I needed a biopsy to find out the cause and extent of this damage. And I came home to Minneapolis to get the biopsy because,
Yeah. And anytime you hear that word, and I've heard that word about going
oh,
through a biopsy, you go, uh-oh, this
biopsy is not a happy word.
this is
And
not
I
a good thing.
initially
Yeah.
thought cancer, which we all do, think that with biopsy, but biopsy doesn't necessarily mean cancer, but it can mean a lot of bad things. And
Yeah.
in my case, so my parents said, you got to come home. This could be serious. Get a biopsy here in
Right.
Minneapolis. And I mentioned my dad was a custom home builder. Well, he built a house for a nephrologist. And he said, Dr. Brown's going to take care of you. We'll get him to do the biopsy. And I had no way to expect that Dr. Brown would then tell me I had a incurable progressive kidney disease.
Now, the type, well, okay, it was also you were diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, right?
Yeah, it's an autoimmune kidney disease,
Right.
correct?
Now, the type of kidney disease you were diagnosed with is termed FSGS. It's a long word, so we'll just call it FSGS
That's
for the
it.
audience. Can you explain this type of kidney disease and what's involved with it, and is it curable?
It is not curable. That's why my book is called The Incurable Optimist.
Okay.
I wish it was curable, and one day maybe I can tell you that it is, but in all these years, it is not curable. And the best way to explain it to people, we have a lot of autoimmune diseases happening around us. We hear a lot about autoimmune diseases. This particular autoimmune disease is my immune system goes after my kidneys. It kind of considers my kidneys foreign material.
It attacks it.
Yep. And so my immune system was attacking my kidneys.
Okay.
So there are a lot of things that they can do to try to stop your immune system from attacking things. And they tried all of them. I just had a very, very stubborn case. But one of the first things they go to, and if any of your listeners have had any kind of ailment, a lot of people are familiar with prednisone. Prednisone is kind of a miracle anti-inflammatory in a lot of cases, but it's kind of a nasty beast in high doses. And I was on such a high dose of prednisone to try to turn it around, but that did not work. So
How did you feel? I know you were on prednisone for a while. It was a
yeah,
pretty decent amount of time. How did you react when they told you that therapy isn't working?
it was so devastating because there was just such a roller coaster that went along with the prednisone. When they started it, they, told me all these horrible side effects that
Right.
could happen. And, it's like fat face and super hungry and gain a lot of weight and mood changes and all these things. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good to a 22-year-old person.
Yeah.
Um, I had some of the reverse effects. Like a lot of people get really hungry and they gain a lot of weight. It made it really hard for me to eat. I got a very upset stomach from it. So I lost a lot of weight, muscle wasting. I felt like it totally disfigured me. I mean, for any woman or man who cares about their appearance, it's hard when these things happen, but especially at that age, I just
Yeah.
felt like I'd sort of been ripped from my normal place in the world. And I hated taking that prednisone. I hated the way it made me feel. But my doctor kept saying, there's a bigger goal here. Like, I know it's bad, but we got to just keep trying. And he then kept amping up the dose. And I kept trying to just go with his message like this, we just got to try it. But when he just got me on the super maximum dose and it was not working, and he called me to tell me that, I was just so devastated because I was like, well, what now? Like this is really not going well. And I had a kind of I don't know if you think this is a good thing or a bad thing, but in my 25-year-old state, I had a good way of having sort of creative denial. Like, and it wasn't denial because nobody knows what's exactly going to happen to them. So I just thought for sure this is going to get better. I know
Yeah.
this is going to get better. And when I really got the news that no, this is not going the way we want it to, I really was in a position of despair. Like, what's going to happen to me? How am I going to get through this life?
So when they put you on the prednisone, uh, they were trying to avoid you having dialysis, right?
Yes. And they were
Okay,
trying to
so
stop.
your kidney was were you still getting to urinate?
It was getting less and less. I was
Okay,
very, very puffy.
okay,
So I was having a lot of trouble getting rid of fluid.
right,
And what they were trying to do is, if you think of the autoimmune kidney disease as inflammation that's
right.
kind of attacking your kidneys, they're trying to like close that inflammation and slow that way down. And that was the goal.
Okay,
And in some people that works.
yeah,
Wasn't the case for me.
okay. Can you explain to our audience, and we're going to get into, the various transplants and dialysis you had to go through, but can you for the people out there who, like I said, who hear the words dialysis, hear the words kidney transplant, but it really doesn't mean anything to them. I mean, they
Right.
know what it is, but can you tell our audience why you had to have so many transplants, as they don't know much about the subject?
Yes, I'm happy to because that I explain that to people a lot because you're right. A lot of people know what dialysis is. Some people don't know what it is. So let me just start there.
Sure.
When your kidneys fail, you have two ways that you can stay alive. One is dialysis, one is kidney transplant. Dialysis is really like an artificial kidney machine. So if you have zero kidney function, you can't exist without any kind of way to filter your blood of toxins and fluid. So for people with kidney failure that are on dialysis, they go to a clinic or people can do it at home now if they're trained.
Uh-huh.
And it's actually a machine where you put two needles in your arm, blood is filtered out of your body over an artificial kidney, and that's removing some fluid and toxins, and then it goes back to you. But the thing with dialysis is it keeps you alive, which is really good because the alternative, like in the early 60s, people, it was just fatal if you had kidney failure. But you don't feel that well because dialysis machines are a part-time solution. They're a part-time job replacing a full-time job. Because all of us, our kidneys are working 24 hours a day, every minute. And when you go to a center or you do it at home for 3 hours, three times a week, or a little more often if you do it at home, you're just not getting that full filtration that a healthy person has. So if you're eligible for a transplant, which not everybody is, but if you are and you're on dialysis and you've had kidney failure, a transplant is kind of the gold standard choice. And what that is obviously, I'm sure people are aware that you can get a kidney from either somebody who has gone to the DMV and checked a box to be a donor upon their death, receiving an organ that way, or there's a lot now of living donation where people who actually will give to their loved one or to a friend or to a stranger a kidney because we all have two kidneys and you can live with one kidney.
Right.
So those are the modalities, but nobody with kidney failure who is alive is not either on dialysis or had a kidney transplant.
Can you describe to us like some of the restrictions you're on when you have dialysis? Like you said, it was 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
So you have to
So
kind of, watch what you're eating and all that or drinking. And what is the mental challenge of going through that?
oh my goodness. Okay. I had zero urine output. So everything that I drink, and it's not just liquid that you drink. I mean, every time you eat, a piece of fruit, there's
Sure.
fluid. So
Right.
every bit of fluid would accrue. And then I'd have to be very careful with fluid because I could get fluid overloaded very easily.
Yeah.
So I was on a pretty tight fluid restriction. And if you've ever like been on a diet and you're restricting what you're going to eat and you start thinking a lot
Oh,
about
yeah.
food, we all have that. Like that's your brain's way of saying, "Hey, I'm a little deprived here. Like, please eat something good." Well, when I was on dialysis and I had to restrict my fluid so much, I would have dreams about drinking ice water, and I would go to restaurants and watch people drink their water and be so envious. And I just was thinking about fluid all the time. I remember watching television shows and seeing people like David Letterman. I was watching David Letterman and he had this weird thing he'd say where he'd drink from his coffee mug and say, "There's nothing better than a lovely beverage." And I'd say, "Stop it. Like you're torturing me." So it's just so funny how like your mind just focuses so much. But I
Sure.
mean, it's like they're pulling this fluid very quickly in a short period of time and then sending you off and saying, "Now don't drink."
Robert Christopher Coppice, a guest and supporter of the It's a Wrap with Rap podcast, scientist and retired financier, has studied near-death experiences for decades and has lectured on this topic in the United States and Europe. His book, Impressions of Near-Death Experiences, quotations from over 100 experiencers, gives us an impression of what near-death experiences are like by giving many hundreds of quotes from more than 100 experiencers from all over the world and from many cultural backgrounds. The book will entice you to put your traditional ideas aside while reading the quotes and sensing how they feel for you. The reader will let go of whatever ways they have been programmed by their upbringing or by religion and will open their mind to receive whatever wisdom that can be found in these testaments of people who have experienced the first moments of physical death. There is a large growing number of these extraordinary experiences, and most of them have had a profound impact on the people who had such experiences. So there must be something in them. They cannot simply be ignored. What is remarkable is that a subset of these near death experiences consist of so called veridical observations, meaning they are observations near death experiencers made and that were subsequently independently verified observations that near death experiencers could have only made if their consciousness was outside their bodies. Like the number of near death experiences, the number of these veridical observations is growing quickly as well. This seems to give circumstantial evidence that our consciousness can exist separately from our body. If such is the case, then we may conclude that near death experiences are not only extraordinary, but they are also real, and humanity needs to heed their important messages. The book includes such topics as the life review, distressing near death experiences, the question why are we on Earth, and the after effects of near death experiences, all of which the near death experiencer has been exposed to. What we may learn from this important book is that it is all about love and compassion toward yourself and others, and that everything and everybody is always connected. This wonderful book, Impressions of Near Death Experiences, quotations from over 100 experiencers, has the potential to break many taboos about our current ideas about life and death. And we can reap the benefits of the near death experience without having to nearly die. This book is highly recommended for those seeking deeper understanding of this fascinating aspect of human experience. The book is available in paperback and Kindle formats from Amazon. Information about the book will be listed in the podcast notes or by clicking the link in this announcement.
Drink anything. So mentally that was really hard. And it's funny that you mentioned that because my book, I did the recording for the audio book. It's my voice. And so when I was working with the producer on it, she said to me, "Oh my gosh, Jennifer, you make me so thirsty when you talk about the parts where you're not able to drink fluid." And she would bring in these giant like mugs of water so she could like thirst herself up from listening to all of that talk. But yeah, that was really hard. And then the food restrictions are also hard because potassium can really build up in your blood, and that's very serious.
Yeah.
If you have too much potassium in your blood, it stops your heart. So it's a very, very important thing when you have zero urine output to control your potassium. But that was the other thing, like all the best healthy foods have potassium in them. So I had to really be very compliant with the diet. And I was very compliant with the diet, but it was a hard way to be 23.
I mean, everybody goes to bed at night, and a lot of people get up and they have to, go. Uh, did it make you uncomfortable? I mean, did it disturb your sleeping too? You know, I mean, if you're going 3 times a week to dialysis, there's a couple of days in there where, it's building up.
Oh yeah, I was uncomfortable with
Yeah,
the fluid retention. I
yeah,
mean, I could feel it in my legs. I could feel it in my fingers. Yeah, I was, I was pretty vain. Like I really did not like that at all. That was challenging. And I remember just trying to figure out, why does this bother me so much? I'm so bothered by the fluid like retention and how it affected my appearance. And I remember one day I was at the dialysis unit and the social worker was there. Her name was Sue. And I was just like trying to like intellectualize myself out of why it was bothering me. And I said to her, I just don't know why it bothers me so much, but it really bothers me when that I have to retain this fluid and then come in puffy and then get it taken off. And she said, "Well, it doesn't feel good and it doesn't look good." And I thought, "Oh, well, thank you. You just simplified that for me." I mean, it just made me realize, yeah, maybe I should just like try to be honest with myself that this is hard. Like, I don't have to try to over analyze why I'm bothered by it. It was just
yeah,
a hard situation I had to get through.
right. Now, you get your first transplant, am I correct, in 1995?
Yes.
Okay. Can you, okay, so we started out, the prednisone didn't work. You're on dialysis. We know the gold standard is the transplant. So you get it in 1995. Can you describe that moment to us when
Yes.
you woke up, and tell us what happened after that?
Yes. Well, so I had been on dialysis waiting. Once you go on a transplant list, you wait because you can't get it. It doesn't happen right away.
How
So
long did you have to wait that first time?
I waited a year and 8 months,
That's a long time.
and it felt like forever. And I was really starting, I've always tried to really just get through things and be positive and like hang in there, but it was getting hard. Like I was feeling very worn down and I just really wanted it to happen. And I I got a call. I was living at my parents' house. And or was I living at that? I can't remember if I was living in my own apartment at that point, but I was at my parents' house when this call came.
Yeah.
And like those were in the days where, we had a beeper, they would get a hold of you with a beeper, you had to carry that around. Like now,
Yeah.
you have a cell phone. But this doctor called and said, if you can come in, we have a really good kidney for you. And I was like, of course I can come in.
Yeah. Can you come in? You think you can make
Yeah,
it?
I think I can make it. So my mom was with me and we were just like, oh my gosh, we gave each other a giant hug and got ourselves to the hospital right away. It was so exciting. And then I know my brother came and my dad came. And it was just this moment like, this is it. I really felt like this is going to be my train ride back to my future. I'm going to go back to Seattle and I'm going to pick up where I left off.
Yeah.
That was what I had been waiting for. This was going to be the way to get me back to normal.
Sure.
And so I got the transplant and I was happy, so happy. And I started suddenly within just a day or two started feeling puffy again, and I didn't feel right. And I said to the doctor, something doesn't feel right. I feel very like I'm getting puffy. And he said, don't worry about it. We're giving you a lot of meds. That's going to be expected, which is the case sometimes, but it
Yeah.
wasn't the case for me. I just knew something doesn't feel right.
Because you
And
knew
then
your body, you know your body better than anybody.
it
Yeah.
just didn't, wasn't how it should have been. And so Dr. Brown came in and I told him, I don't know, something doesn't feel right. And he said, oh my gosh, we're going to do another biopsy. And I don't want you to have had recurrence. He came back in and got the results. And he was so mad. And I realized, oh my gosh, he does really care about me
Yeah.
because he was such a mild-mannered man, just a really sweet man, bow tie, tweed coat, just very reserved. But I think he threw a pen or something. He was just like, did not want you to have recurrence. So what that meant was on the third day after I got that kidney, I was leaking protein in the new kidney. It meant the FSGS had come back very quickly into the new kidney. And oh boy, Ron, that was a moment where I really fell into this, like, I mean, despair is probably the best word because up to that point, I kept thinking I've got to get through this, get the transplant, and then I go back to normal.
Yeah.
But when it recurred after 3 days, I was like, wait, what does this mean for the rest of my life? Like, I'll never go back to normal. I'm never going back there. And I had to really wrestle with what that meant, how I was going to move forward with the situation with the hand that I'd been dealt.
Yeah. Now, okay, so that's transplant number one. Tell us, I think, was it 5 years later? I'm not sure. When you
Yep,
had,
it was like 5 years and 3 months later. And I, well, in that time with the first kidney, a couple things happened. I had a shift in my perspective because I felt like I had to.
yeah,
So I knew, okay, this isn't going away. I'm going to live with this. So how am I going to live well with this? Because I am young and I don't want to have a bad life. I want to have a really good life. So I'm going to make this a good life. And a couple of things were really front and center on my mind. One was that a family of a deceased donor, um, their loved one like made the choice to have their life go forward. And I felt like I got a kidney from somebody and I owed it to that person's family to make my life the best that I could. I was never going to have a day where I didn't appreciate the gift because my FSGS recurred, but I wasn't on dialysis. I was off dialysis. I did have some kidney function. So it wasn't like it was dialysis the next day. And I had 5 years and 3 months of making my life good. So I got an MBA, I got a master's degree in business. I started dating. I I met a guy, he became my boyfriend, then we got married. And so I was having good life. Like I
yeah,
was making my life the best that I could with that gift. So it wasn't I wasn't going to make it a poor me story. It was going to be a lucky me story.
that's the way to do it.
So yeah,
Yeah.
5 years later, I needed a kidney again. And I had
So
been
that,
married.
so now we're on number three.
No, no, now we're up to number two. I just,
Okay.
sorry, got a little frog, but
Yeah.
I wanted to explain that this was a period of time with the first kidney that I had a lot of appreciation for the things that I still had. And then when I needed my second kidney, I'd been married for a year. I needed another kidney, and I was like, oh no, we're going through this again. But I got a kidney pretty quickly. I was only on dialysis 5 months, another deceased donor, and another chance to like make memories and make my life the best I could with another gift.
Right.
So in that time, I was working at my dad's custom home building office. I became the vice president of sales and marketing. My career was going really well. I was happily married. And that gift of life that I received from my second deceased donor allowed me to create life. So I got pregnant and we were able to we have this beautiful, healthy daughter. And I just think that that's a miracle
Yeah,
of
it is.
people helping people, and then not only giving me life, but now like there's another person in this world who's this wonderful person. And that is directly thanks to the gift that somebody gave by checking that box at the DMV.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, uh, okay, we're
So
going
if
to
you lost track, we've gotten through 2 transplants.
we're through two, and there is a third one.
Yep.
All right, tell us about that because, like you said, this to all patients and caregivers out there, Rare Patient Voice, a supporter of the It's a Wrap with Rap podcast, is paying for your input. Patients 16 years and older and caregivers, family, and friends of any disability, disorder, syndrome, illness, or condition have the opportunity to express their opinions through surveys and interviews to improve medical products and services. Who knows your journey better than you? Rare Patient Voice puts you in touch with researchers who are developing products and services that can help you and others with your condition. These researchers need input of patients to develop products and services that have a significant impact on patients' lives. Over the past 9 years, Rare Patient Voice has paid patients over $10 million. When you join Rare Patient Voice, you may be invited to participate in interviews, surveys, or online communities where you will share your insights. Rare Patient Voice has hundreds of studies running at any time, so there are many opportunities to participate. You will earn $120 per hour or $2 a minute, depending on the length of the survey, for participating in these studies. By making your voice heard, you are a catalyst for change. Rest assured, your input will be used to help other patients like you. There is no cost at all for you to participate. You can get more information and sign up by clicking the link in the sponsor's notes of this podcast or the link provided in this announcement. With FSGS, it can come back and
Yes.
you'll need another one.
So it's
So,
really a matter of managing FSGS. They know
yeah,
it's not going to go away, but they're going to manage it. And the
right.
management, kind of gets better and better. So I'm glad about that. But the time by the time I needed my third transplant, um, I didn't go on dialysis that time because my mom, and this is another, like, there's a lot of miracles in this story. I think this is a very miraculous story.
It
This is
is.
not a bad story at all.
Yeah.
But my mom had offered to donate her kidney to me for my first transplant. And we weren't a match. We didn't have enough what they call matching antigens, which are markers. We were the same blood type, but not enough matching antigens. But by the time I got my third transplant, the criteria for how many antigens had to match had changed because of improvements in medication. So by the time I needed my third, the surgeon said, who's with you here today? And I said, my mom. She came with me to so many appointments, just lovely how much fun we had together in hard times. But he said, well, let's get her tested. I bet she'd give you her kidney. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was not quite ready for all of that. But long story short, she said, I absolutely want to give you my kidney if it's possible. She wouldn't take no for an answer. And they tested her and we were a match. So
Wow.
isn't that amazing that
Yeah.
and I thought she had done enough for me already because she had been by my side making the best of this situation ever since I first arrived back home at 22.
Moms are going to go out a thousand
Oh
percent,
boy, there's nothing better than moms, right?
right.
So she's no exception. So yeah, she gave her kidney to me for my third transplant, and I didn't have to go on dialysis. And she gave me more memories and time to just enjoy life. And I think it's Albert Einstein who says, that I'm going to mess up exactly how this quote goes, but it's something to the effect of, there are two ways to look at things. either nothing is a miracle or everything is a miracle. And I just saw so many miracles in how people just step up to help people. And one thing about kidney disease and kidney transplantation that is different. I'm really active with the National Kidney Foundation. I'm the board chair of our Minnesota National Kidney Foundation, and and I'm a writer, so I love stories. And the stories, I hear so many amazing stories. And when someone, as you know, has cancer or some really hard things, it's not like somebody can say, "I would like to help you get rid of that cancer." But in kidney transplants and livers work like this too.
Yeah.
Someone can say, I want to help you. I want to give you part of my healthy body part,
Yeah.
make this better. And it's just really
Yeah.
it's like the best seat to humanity, seeing
Yeah.
what
That,
people
that
do.
is, yeah. Uh, all right. As long as we're through number three, you needed another one, and that is the last one, the fourth
Yes.
one.
And I'm so happy to tell you this. In August, it will be 14 years. So
So that
been,
kidney's lasted 14 years.
this is my best ever. And it was a gift from my husband, and
Right.
what's called an indirect donation. And people are confused when I say that, they're like, what does that mean? It means my husband wanted to give me his kidney, but we weren't a match. And there had been this great game changer in transplantation called the paired exchange program.
Okay.
We hear a lot about this today, but almost 14 years ago, it wasn't as prevalent. And what that means is if my husband Dirk was willing to give his kidney to a stranger, then I could in turn get a kidney from a stranger that matched me, because you kind of go into this pool of people.
Right.
The person who was a match for me, he wasn't directing his kidney to anybody, so that like Dirk wanted to give his kidney to somebody so I could get one. My donor was what's called an altruistic donor. And he was 25 at the time, walked into a transplant clinic and said, I would just like to, you know, give my kidney away to a stranger out of the goodness of my heart. And we were a match. So it's just a lot of, you can imagine I'm very steeped in gratitude at how all of those factors came together,
Yeah.
and I'm doing so well. So the FSGS being an autoimmune disease, there's a treatment that they're doing for me now that it's called, this is maybe too technical for your listeners, but it's called plasmapheresis. And basically what it does is it helps tamp my immune system down. And that's really helping. So, almost 14 years later, I have this kidney and I'm happy and doing well.
You hear so many bad stories on the news, but this is just awesome. We're talking about all the good that's happening. That that doesn't get any publicity out there, you
I
know.
know it, and it
But
really
but our
shows.
audience is gonna listen to this and they're gonna know there's a lot of good people out there. Now, what is the process like uh, to find a donor in today's healthcare environment? And do you have any tips for people out there who may be needing
Yes, I do.
an organ?
Like I said, with my involvement with the National Kidney Foundation, I'm also a National Kidney Founder mentor. And so I have a mentee that I talk to, and we were just talking this morning. And one of the things the National Kidney Foundation, a program they put on, is called the Big Ask, Big Give. And it really helps people figure out how to tell their story to see if anyone would be interested in donating to them. And that's kind of the key. It's very intimidating, the thought of saying, I'm going to ask somebody if they'll give me their kidney.
Yeah,
Nobody wants to do that. It's hard to ask anybody for anything, let alone something so momentous. But the idea is really to just share your story and to share it in concentric circles. So start with your family. Is there anybody in your family who might be willing? And then do your extra circle from there, your work, your churches, your groups that you're involved with. And it keeps going out from there. There's it's actually sharing your story. That's what people need to do. And so there's a really good program that helps people do that. But yeah, I think people really are curious about other people. And if you're not asking for something but sharing yourself with somebody else, people usually, even though they might not be able to step up and donate a kidney to you, they might be willing to share your story to other people and empathize with you, and you might learn about things that they're going through. And it's just what we're all connected by. We all, it's not like some of us go through hard things and some of us don't. We all do. And so I think that there's kind of a unifying factor. And that's why I love your show, because everybody who you talk to, they just know what it's like to be a human and go through hard things and connect with other humans. And you're
Yeah,
such a good example of that. I mean,
yeah,
work that you're doing is such an extension of what you've gone through in your own life. And I think when people turn their pain into purpose, really good things happen.
yeah, absolutely. Now, going through the difficult parts of the journey, what inspired you to keep going and not give up? And what were the tools in your toolbox that you used?
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of hope. I think hope is an engine that really moves us forward. And I feel like there are so many things we don't know. And sometimes we create a narrative in our mind and we tell ourselves something bad's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen to me in the next 10 years. No clue. And you don't know either. None of us do. But
Yeah, you're
sometimes
right.
we pretend like we can know, and we tell ourselves stories that aren't accurate. And so I like to tell people, don't borrow trouble. Like, don't make up this thing that's going to happen and you have no idea it's going to happen. I think it's really important to put all your hope into a good future, do all, control all the things that you can control.
Yeah,
But there's a lot we can't control. And I know that you know this too, that sometimes I remember a moment where I just realized, okay, I'm going to control what I can. I can control how well I eat and sleep and move. I'm going to be healthy. I love to exercise, but there are things I can't control. And those things, I just have this visual of floating down the river. I go with the flow. And
yeah,
that sort of feeling of surrender to wherever it's going to take you is a very peaceful feeling. So I tell people, don't borrow trouble. Another thing is with this kind of anxiety spinning that we all tend to do is I have a friend who said to me, my husband got COVID and I had never had COVID before. This was a couple of years ago. And I talked to my friend and I said, it's just, and then I got it. And I said, it's so daunting to know tomorrow I'm going to be like sleeping all day like he is today. Like that's what's coming. And she said, not necessarily. Everybody has different symptoms. It sounds so simple, but I thought, not necessarily are two good words to
yeah,
live by. Because when we spin the anxiety forward, just say, not necessarily. Like you don't know that. So I think we have to be really careful the stories we tell ourselves. And well, when we appreciate things, what we appreciate appreciates. Like where you put your focus, I think is really, really important. Um, I also think, and this is hard for a lot of people, I know, I don't know if it's been hard for you, it was hard for me originally, but let people love you because people want to help people. And sometimes when you're going through something hard, there's a tendency to go, I don't need anything, I'm okay. Like, don't pity me, because I do not like pity, and I think most of us don't.
yeah.
But it took me a while to realize that some of the things I was labeling as pity was just kindness. And when people want to be kind to you, let them, because we all know ourselves what it's like to want to help somebody else. So just, you got to put yourself in that mindset that when people want to help you, it helps them too, because
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
connection is
Yeah,
how we
people,
all
yeah,
get by.
I had, when I got my cancer, got it twice. I had people reaching out to me. I really didn't even know them very
Yeah.
well. And yeah, we've gotten to be close friends now.
Yeah,
And
you can feel kind of this collective rising of people wanting to help.
yeah,
And I think that is the best, like what I said about people who, say they'll donate kidneys to other people, that's the best of humanity. Well, you've seen the best of humanity too. It's that rising of people saying, care about you, what can I do to help you? I'm here for you. And I think it's because we're all connected in that
we are
way.
all connected. We are really all
Yeah.
one. And, you know, I was going to say, look at you and me. We want to help people. You're on the National Kidney Foundation. I'm a global lead advocate for male breast cancer happens.org.
Yep.
We do a lot of things for that, for that cause and other causes. You and myself, our guest and supporter of the It's a Wrap with Rap podcast, Jennifer Cramer Miller, has authored a nonfiction true story titled Incurable Optimist: Living with Illness and Chronic Hope. This inspirational memoir of a 22-year-old woman's sudden autoimmune kidney failure details a resilient journey of chronic illness, unfailing love, and moving forward with joy. At 22, Jennifer was thrilled with her new job, charming boyfriend, and Seattle apartment. The day she received a devastating autoimmune diagnosis, planning for her bright future went to finding herself soaking in a hospital pillow with tears and grappling with words like progressive and incurable. That day, Jennifer crossed over from wellness to chronic illness, from thriving to kidney failure. Her chances of survival hinged upon the expertise of doctors, the generosity of strangers, and the benevolence of loved ones. Spanning 2+ decades, this family love story explores loss and acceptance, moving forward with uncertainty, and forging a path of joy. This award-winning book gives us a real look at what it is like to be living with illness. With a crystal clear writing style, Jennifer describes the fear and desperation after her diagnosis while bravely holding on to resilience, joy, and hope. We have all heard the words dialysis and transplant, but do we really know what those words mean to live them? You will, through Jennifer's writing style, feel that you are walking in her shoes and get a real appreciation for what one goes through with this condition. And after you are finished reading the book, have a greater appreciation for your own kidneys and those people who donate their kidneys out of the goodness of their heart. After 4 kidney transplants, Jennifer is here to shine a bright light on people helping people in difficult times with a story that will make you want to hug the humans you love. Sometimes it's the sorrows that threaten to break us apart that ultimately unite us in hope. The award-winning book, Incurable Optimist: Living with Illness and Chronic Hope, is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook format from Amazon, Barnes& Noble, and wherever books are sold. Details about the book will be listed in the podcast notes or by clicking the link in this message. We faced adversity. When I say adversity, I'm not talking about, a hangnail. I'm talking about real
Yep.
adversity. And I'm sure that you can't buy your health.
No.
You can't buy it. And I don't I don't know you other than I just met you, but I'm sure that material things probably don't mean a whole lot to you like they used to when you were
No, you
22.
really know your values
Yeah.
when you feel like your life has been on the line.
Yeah.
Yep, it's a real good way to crystallize what is important. And people are so important. Like your people that you love and that you're in this world with, because I never take for granted that I am alive. I mean, my husband's in the house downstairs. Like I live with someone and we are together in this world. And I'm very close with my parents and I'm so glad they're still here and very close with my friends and my daughter and the people I work with. And I mean, what would we do without people? So one of the other things I think that can happen to people when they go through really hard things, and this is okay when it first happens, you spiral inside yourself because you're dealing with a lot. But as soon as you're able to go inside out and help other people, that's a really tremendous benefit to yourself and to the people that you help.
Absolutely. Now, moving on, you are a very active person. You're living with a chronic illness. You're a mentor as well as a blogger and a writer for the National Kidney Foundation newsletter. So tell us what helps you stay active, and please tell us some stories that stand out about those patients that you have mentored?
Oh boy. Okay, so what helps me stay active is I do have a lot of energy. I gotta say, I'm pretty motivated to obviously I'm a writer and I wanted to share my story because I can write, so I knew it would be an effective vehicle, but also the one-on-one work I do with people, I felt like this is really helping people and I want to share it more broadly. But I keep my energy up by taking really good care of myself. I'm pretty attentive to my nutrition. And like I said, I really do think exercise is medicine. So I obviously a transplant patient, I have to take medication regularly. And I kind of treat exercise the same way. I feel like if I don't exercise, and I give myself a day off a week, but I'm usually a 6 day a week person. If I don't do it, I feel like I've skipped my medicine. And the benefits of it, it makes me feel better. It's sort of counterintuitive, but when you feel a little tired, like, oh, I don't really feel like doing it, and then you exercise, then you feel better. So
Yeah,
it like
yeah,
creates energy. Yeah.
yeah.
So, and then the stories. Oh my gosh, so many stories of like there was this one traveling nurse I interviewed, and this was during COVID. She was a COVID traveling nurse, and she saw a picture of a little boy on Facebook, this adorable 2-year-old boy, blonde hair, just looked like a little central casting boy that could be in every commercial. And he needed a kidney. And she just called the number and said, I'll donate my kidney to that little boy. And they were a match. And she sent me this picture of her. She's just this healthy, blonde, like gorgeous nurse with this little adorable blonde boy. And it was such a tender story. And
Yeah.
I interviewed a family once. They live in northern Minnesota and they have Alport disease. And that is a kidney disease that's genetic, but it doesn't, it like 50% of the family gets it. So I can't
Yeah.
remember how to explain how it passes, but so this family, this big northern Minnesota family, some of them needed kidneys and some of them didn't have the disease, and they had this kind of major family swap of kidney transplants. And it was really an endearing story of just a family bond and family connection. And
Yeah.
so I've heard so many stories that are very heartwarming.
Okay, let's talk about your book, Incurable Optimist, Living with Illness and Chronic Hope.
Yes.
What was the catalyst for you to write the book, make yourself vulnerable, and what do you hope the reader takes away from it?
Yeah, well, one of the things was, and this sounds so funny when I say it, but Madonna and Ellen DeGeneres really got me going on this idea because I remember I just heard some interview, Madonna talking to Ellen DeGeneres, and apparently before Ellen came out, Madonna told her, if you don't tell your story and tell people that you're gay, no one can ever tell it. Like you're the only person who can tell that story. And I just remember hearing that, and my daughter was younger, and I thought, what if I got hit by a bus? Like my daughter would never know what a miracle she is to be here. And I just felt this kind of compelling desire to start like getting everything on paper. And then as I did more work with mentees one-on-one and more work with the National Kidney Foundation, and I just started opening myself up to people because when I was young, I didn't want anybody to know. It was in the background. I was like, that's just something nobody else has to know about. And I didn't want it to define me because who wants to be defined by the worst thing that's ever happened to you? And then I got into my 50s and I thought, you can't define me anymore. I've done too many things. So like, I want to share the story because I started to realize that the most idiosyncratic of stories are universal. Like, you and I have very different stories, but very similar stories. So, having male breast cancer, you're going to touch so many people who don't have exactly male breast cancer because of your ability to take, like I said, your pain into purpose and overcome obstacles. And I think it becomes a very human story. And
Right.
so I felt like it wasn't, I didn't want to feel like I was navel gazing and just have a story about me. And I work a lot on writing, and I have a book coach, and we really worked on why is this story valuable to people? And it really came down to how we all have to manage uncertainty, hold on to hope, and find joy. And so that became a story that a lot of people could rally around. And I think, and I'm glad that it has been, successful, and that I have won awards, because it makes me feel so good when people from all backgrounds have reached out to me to say, just such a smattering of things of how they relate to the book. And it's not all people with kidney disease by far. It's just a really wide range of just humans connecting to what happens to humans.
Right. Yeah, I think we're very similar in that. I didn't, I wanted to branch out and not just basically go with, breast cancer, you know,
Yeah,
to the laser in on that. I wanted to spread it out because there's people with all kinds of adversities that they're going through and struggles, and I wanted to reach them.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And you're doing a
absolutely.
beautiful job of that.
Yeah. Now, there's more than 37 million Americans out there that have kidney disease and do not know it. What
Yes.
do people need to pay attention to regarding their kidney health?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because this is really important. The two leading causes of chronic kidney disease are diabetes and high blood pressure. So, high blood pressure is pretty easy to check your blood pressure. Some people go for years with high blood pressure without knowing it, and that's damaging kidneys. So, please be aware of your blood pressure. Get it checked, follow it. And if you have diabetes, you really, really should be talking to your doctor about checking your kidney function. Because what we have, and it's simple to check your kidney function, it's a blood test and a urine test.
Yeah.
Um, but what we're finding through our data at the National Kidney Foundation is like only 40% of people with the high risk factors for kidney disease, diabetes, and high blood pressure are getting checked on their kidney function. And a lot of people are crashing into dialysis. So for those certain populations, it's really important to pay attention to some of these metrics of your health. Some people I've seen never go to the doctor and then start to have problems. And kidney disease is a silent disease until it shouts. So you can go quite a long way before you actually realize something's wrong. So those are the two populations to really be careful with. People, anyone over 60, African Americans and Black individuals have a 4 times higher rate of kidney disease. So do Hispanic people have a 1.5 time higher rate. Native Americans have a higher rate. So really proactive with health is important. But for the average person who's just, going along, just trying to be a healthy person, stay hydrated. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to drink like a million glasses of water a day, but, have good hydration and all the things that you would think of for good health. Sleep well, eat well, move well. And yeah, just really pay attention to those health factors.
I just want to throw this out to everybody out there in the audience. When you get up in the morning, first thing you should do is have a nice big glass of water. Why? Because when you get up, you're dehydrated.
Yep. When you sleep all night and you're not drinking anything.
Right.
Yeah. And it's good to have one right before you go to bed too.
There you go. Now, there are about 100,000 Americans on the waiting list for a kidney, and only 25,000 people per year get a transplant yearly. Now, every day, the statistics are 17 people die while waiting. So we know from the organization Donate Life that 95% of Americans are in favor of being a donor. Tell us how we can get registered, in your opinion, how we can increase awareness and increase the pace of getting kidneys to those needing them.
Yes. And that's a great question, because, when you look at those statistics, so like when you ask you ask people, like 95% of people say, yes, we think organ donation is a good thing. In Minnesota, we have like 90 some percent of people saying they're all for it. but we have about 58% of people who are registered organ donors. So what I think that difference is, like the 90% are really kind people. The 58% are just people who took their kindness and put it into action. And like anything, sometimes we have a nice thought, but we just don't implement it.
Yeah.
And if you're one of those people who think, yes, I think it's a good thing to become a donor, well, first of all, to make any good decision, you want information. If you go to donatelife.net, you can get all the information that you need about it. And then you can sign up right on the website to be an organ donor. You can always do it at your DMV, but some people think my license isn't going to come up for renewal until, several years. You can go right to donatelife.net and both educate yourself and become a donor. So I think when people believe in it, but they just need to take that one extra step, the extra step is not that big. You can do it right in your own home, right on your computer. And
Okay,
then
so
you're right that there's a big gap between how many people need kidneys and how many get them.
okay,
And
so for our audience, I know the thought of going to the DMV is probably not high on your list.
right,
I know it's not high on mine. Uh, donatelife.net takes care of it, right? Right
pretty
from your
easy.
computer or your
Yeah,
smartphone.
yeah. And then, so that gap, we need more registered organ donors. And for anyone who is interested in learning about living donation, you can go to kidney.org. That's the National Kidney Foundation website, and learn more about that. There's a lot of great websites about it. There's one where it's actually athletes who have donated their kidneys. And you're gonna have to Google that. I don't know the name, but it's something like Donor Athletes. And it's a great website. It makes me happy that they exist because people
Yeah.
can live really great, healthy lives with one kidney. But when you look at these people who are marathoners and these extreme athletes, it just really underscores that, you're very healthy with one kidney. So that really bridges the gap to kind of that shortage. It's a supply and demand problem. And then, yeah, also this paired exchange has really helped a lot with bridging that. But we need more people. We still have a very significant supply and demand problem.
Now, for contact information, if people want to contact you, how can they do that?
Yes, I wish they would. You can go to my website, which is jennifercramermiller.com. And I always have to say Cramer is with a C because everyone always wants to do K. So Jennifer, Cramer, Miller.com.
Okay.
And on my website, you can find different essays I've written. You can find links to my book. It's available on Amazon. You can order it from any local bookstore. And yes, so I'm also on social media, as I know a lot of us are. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and I'm just at Jennifer Cramer Miller.
Okay. Now we're going to put all of that in the podcast notes.
Great.
So you don't have to write this down if you're listening out there. Now, for those out there struggling with difficult situations, what is the first thing you would say to help them?
One thing I like to acknowledge, I'm a positive person, but there is such a thing as toxic positivity, and we do hear about that a lot.
Yeah.
It's not possible to be positive all the time, so I want people to honor how they're feeling. Like I recommend when things get really hard that people have just a notebook that they can have as their damn it dump and just like spill out your thoughts. Just get it out, get it out. Because if you don't acknowledge that things are hard, it's a boomerang. Somehow you're gonna realize it at some point.
Yeah.
So I really believe in honoring that things are difficult and then shoring yourself up to realize I can get through this. I can do it, and you can do it by relying on your people, reach out to your people. Like we said, get outside of yourself. If you find yourself isolating or kind of spiraling inside, it's amazing what a cup of coffee with a friend can do. So get outside of yourself and really like try to not, like we said, create a story that's not necessarily true. There are things you can control. Make a list of what you can control and let go of the things that you can't control. But life is really a mix of beauty and bummers. And I think we have to remember that just because we have bummers doesn't mean we can't have beauty, and they can exist side by side. I have
Right.
had hilarious moments in the most dire of times. And once I kind of realized that about life, like my mom and I would always try to find the funny in a hard situation. And, you really can find it a lot. So really try to work on your perspective. And one thing that's been so helpful for me is I create a lucky list. And when I was in this really sad place thinking I'm on dialysis, I am just out of college, nothing's going according to plan. And I remember going to a movie with my mom and my brother, and it was a funny movie. And I was laughing, and I realized, okay, so you can't take that away from me. I might be like on dialysis, but I can still laugh. I can
Sure.
still, and I realized, okay, I'm going to make a lucky list. Like I'm lucky that I can still laugh, and I'm lucky that I have this caring family. And I think that when we're really feeling down after we sort of get our damn it dump out, making a lucky list is a good way to reorient your perspective.
Good advice. Good advice. I want to thank you so much, Jennifer, for being on the podcast and educating us on this most important subject. I want to wish you good luck in the on your future writing, and I want to wish you nothing but good health going forward. So
Thank
thank you once again for being here. It was great. Great
Thank you.
having you.
And all the same to you. Good luck to you. Keep up this really amazing work you're doing. And yes, I hope to see you again.
Oh, thank you for the kind words. Comments and suggestions for the podcast, you can email me at itsarapwithrap@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group, It's a Rap with Rap. We have about 2,000 members in there. It is a private group. So if you want to get in, just friend me on Facebook. And Instagram, It's a Rap with Rap Podcast. And we're also on Twitter or X at Rapper, WRAPPER 130. We're on YouTube. All the episodes on YouTube. It's a Rap with Rap, the podcast uncut. Our website is itsarapwithrap.com. I want to thank everyone for listening or viewing. I want everybody to please stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap.